Welcome learner for our next lecture, that is lecture 11, which is based on importance, essential factor affecting and limitations of demand forecasting. We already studied the definition and meaning of demand forecasting. Let's recall it once. As you know very well that demand forecasting estimating the future demand for the product or services over a specific period of time, in which we have seen the qualitative and quantitative techniques also. Here you have seen that demand forecasting help business predict how much product customer will buy in the future. So either company used to demand forecasting to plan production, inventory, sales strategy, pricing, and marketing activities. In the next slide, we will see the importance, essential factor affecting, and limitations of demand forecasting. Let's see the importance of demand forecasting. Demand forecasting is extremely important for business success to make better decision. So here demand forecasting helps something to make better decision. The first importance of demand forecast, that is the production planning. In the production planning, firm determines how much produce and in which quantity. Here it is very important because the firm would prevent from overproduction and underproduction of goods. For example, if demand is forecasted at 5,000 units, then the firm will produce close to that amount. It means that they prevent from overproduction and underproduction. So here production planning is very important. The next importance is inventory management. Here, inventory management is very important to maintain the stock or to prevent from the stock. It is very important that business maintain the high level of stock. Too much stock may be the waste of money, because if we store the product from too much, it will be waste, or too little stock will lose the sales. So here inventory management is also very important, because inventory cost, it's also a expensive cost. So here what the manager do, the manager have to prevent the waste of money and lost sales. Due to this, they have to maintain the stock as per the customer requirement. So forecasting ensures optimum inventory levels. The next important is financial planning, and here you have seen that the financial planning is also very important benefit for demand forecasting, because management decide how much money will be required for production, marketing, and purchasing raw material and other business activities. So proper financial planning ensure that firm uses its fund efficiently and avoid unnecessary financial problem. So here there are three types of financial planning. The first is cost estimation planning. Here business estimate the total cost required for the production and operation. Here the firm to prepare an accurate budget and avoid over spending in the cost estimation process. Investment planning again is very important. Here the company decided how much invest is needed in the future, so that the growth may be possible or investment decisions are made at right time. The next planning is profit forecasting. Profit forecasting is again very important for the manager to estimate their expected profit by predicting future demand of goods and services. This allows firm to plan their financial strategy effectively. The next importance of demand forecasting is marketing strategy. Again, the marketing strategy is very important to design marketing and promotional strategies by using the advertisement. So here what the business firms do, business firm do the advertisement campaigns. Here business decide when and where to run advertisement to reach the target audience effectively. So advertising campaigns, it's also very important. Next is sales promotion. For forecasting demand, companies can plan promotion like discount and special offer to boost the sales during the peak time and avoid poor timing. So it's very important for them to increase their sales promotion rather than the profit making. The next is Pricing strategies. Again, price strategy is very important because from is to set the competitive price which is based on expected demand. So this ensures profitability while affecting customer with suitable pricing. The next important is labor planning. Again, labor planning is very important. Why? Because company can decide it how many workers are needed based on expected demand. So why it is important? It important because it ensures the right number of worker at the right time and also control labor cost and avoid underutilization and improves productivity and efficiency in an optimal way. For example, you have seen this that higher demand, hire more workers, and lower demand, reduce workforce. So here labor planning is again very important in demand forecasting. The next important is capacity planning. In capacity planning, firm determines whether their production capacity is enough to meet the future demand. They decided their production capacity of the capital and the firm that is there, they will satisfy the future demands and needs of the customer or not. The next one is reduce reduction. So here reduce reduction, what the demand forecasting does. Demand forecasting reduce business uncertainty and risk by using macroeconomic variables and microeconomic variables. What they do, they see the market trends, and it also allows firm to prepare for market changes in advance. Let's see the essential of good demand forecasting. Good demand forecasting, it is very essential to follow certain principle to be reliable and useful. The first essential is accurate data. So forecasting must be based on reliable and relevant data, and it must be valid. What are the sources of data? The sources of data are past sales record. The firm using past sales record to see the future demand forecast. They also doing the market survey, and they also seen the consumer behavior study by using the expert opinion poll or by using the qualitative method. The next essential is scientific method. Here forecast should use proper statistical and analytical method such as the quantitative method. In this method, the firm using trend analysis by using the various variations in the time, in specific time. Then they using the regression analysis by using the cost and effect relationship. Then they using the time series analysis. So these methods increase forecast accuracy. The next essential is simplicity. Here, forecasting method should be simple and easy to understand. Over complicated method may create confusion and errors. So simplicity again is very important, essential in the demand forecasting. And the next one is flexibility. So good demand forecast must be flexible to adjust according to the changes in market conditions. What are the market conditions? The consumer taste and preference, and the economic environment, that is the macroeconomic variables. Now, the next essential is time horizon. So here you can say that the forecasting should be clearly specific the time period, whether the business or the firm may decided the time period for the future demand. That is, they are the time period which they have been divided in three types. That is the short term forecasting, in which the business should be, for firm or business maybe forecast the future demand for 1 to 3 months. Then they use the medium term forecasting. In medium term forecasting, they use 3 months to 2 years for the future demand for goods and services. Now the next is long term forecasting, in which they use over the 2 years of demand forecast of goods and services. So time horizon again is very important, essential in the good demand forecasting. The next essential is continuously revision. Continuously revision means forecast must be updated regularly. As you know very well that the marketing conditions and competitions and macroeconomic variables are in a cyclical ways. They are not rigid, they are flexible. So here forecast should be updated regularly by in a continuous manner. So market conditions change frequently, so forecast must be revised and updated. The next is cost effectiveness. So the cost of forecasting should not exceed its benefits. So companies should choose methods that are economic and practical and cost effective. Now, let's see the factor affecting sales and demand forecasting. So here, let's see the factor affecting one by one. There are many factors that influence the sales of the product. So these factors must be considered while forecasting demand. The first one is price of the product. Here, you have seen that price has again strong impact on demand. If the firm charges higher prices, the consumer demand may be lower, and if they charge the lower prices, the consumer demand will be higher. So if the smartphone prices increases, fewer people maybe buy them. So price of the product is again a important factor affecting that affect the demand. Now, the second factor affecting is consumer income. As you know, higher income people generally leads to higher demand, and lower income people leads to lower demand. So there are three cases of consumer income, or maybe called as income elasticity, where you have seen that in the next slide, that if the consumer income is higher, they leads to higher demand. Sometimes we have seen that the consumer income is higher, but they are not demand the higher for goods. Why? Depend upon the goods, whether the goods is normal, inferior, right? So here luxury goods demand increases with income, but in the normal goods case or inferior goods case, if the consumer income increases, demand will not increase in the same direction. The next one is population is size. So here larger population usually increase demand, but more people, more demand for good clothing and housing. The next is consumer preference and taste. As you have seen that consumer always change their fashion, lifestyle, taste, and preference, which affect the demand. As you know, sometimes consumer maybe prefer demand for electric car due to environmental awareness, and they will decrease to purchase the petrol or diesel cars. So here we are saying that consumer preference and say taste affecting the sales of demand. Next is advertising and promotion. You have seen that effective advertisement can significantly increase the sales. For example, television advertisement, social media marketing, and discounting offers. The next factor affecting is price of related goods. As you know, when there is increase of any price of good, the consumer may substitute with the another one. So basically demand also depend on the price of related goods. Here I have taken two examples of price of related good, that is the substitute goods and complementary goods. When we talk about the substitute good, that is the tea and coffee, when the coffee prices rise, the demand for tea may be increase. And when we talk about the complementary goods, let's talk about the car and petrol. If the prices of car may be rise, the demand for petrol may decreases. So here price of related goods again affecting the sales in demand forecasting. The next is government policies. Here, government policies again such as taxes, subsidies, and regulation that influences the demand. It comes under the macroeconomic variable. For example, higher tax on cigarette reduces the demand for cigarette. The next is economic condition. Economic condition, I'm talking about the cyclical waves or business cycle. Overall economic condition, it affect the demand. For example, during recession, the demand may be decreased, and during economic growth, the demand may increase. So here I have draw some example that the movement of economic condition is in a flexible way, like in a cyclical move. You have seen this. This is the trade cycle or business cycle in which economic growth is fluctuating in a cyclical waves. So again, it is very important factor affecting. The next is seasonal factor. You have seen that some product have seasonal demand. For example, ice cream demand increases in summer and decreases in winter, and woolen clothes demand increases in winter and decreases in summer. Let's see some limitations of demand forecasting. Even the best demand forecasts are not perfect accurate. There are several limitations here. The first one is uncertainty of future. The future, as you know, the future is very unpredictable, so forecast may not be always be correct. Unexpected event may become, such as pandemic, earthquake, war, natural disaster, can change its demand suddenly. The second limitation is that dependence on past data. So here, forecasting often depends on historical data, which may not be reflect the future market condition. When we talk about the historical data, it that directly talk about the qualitative data, and the qualitative data is doing in a current situation, and you by using the qualitative data you cannot expected the future market condition. Only in a quantitative condition you can expected the future market condition. The next one is rapid market changes. Here you have seen that consumer preferences and technology can change quickly. For example, new technology can suddenly reduce demand for older products like a Apple phone and the Nokia phone. The next one is cost of forecasting. So here, accurate forecasting may require expensive market research and data analysis. So again, it's a limitations of demand forecasting. If the forecasting is expensive, then it will be directly on the burden of firm. So a small business may find it difficult to afford it. So the cost of forecasting, again, it's a limitation in the demand forecasting. The next one is human errors. As you know, when we talk about the qualitative method, we are using the expert opinion, Delphi method. Sometimes human errors may be arises, for example, human judgment, which may lead to mistake or biasness, which comes under the limitations of demand forecasting. The second one is external factor. Many external factors that are difficult to control, such as government policies, which can we cannot control the government policies, global economic condition like the macroeconomic variables, and social changes like a weather changes. These are all the limitations of demand forecasting. Okay, let's conclude this. Today we can see the essential importance, limitations of demand forecasting, in which we have seen the company anticipate future demand, plan production, manage inventory, and reduce risk. Therefore, here the business must regularly update their forecast and use reliable data and method. Also, we can study the anticipated future demand. So here, plan production, manage inventory, and reduce risk is important for the business firm to meet their future demands of goods and services. Thank you so much, learner. In the next lecture, we will talk about the utility analysis and consumer behavior.